Welcome to my 2018 Partners in Policy Making project. My name is Kimberly Bond Thompson, but you can call me Kim. I've had the pleasure of being an occupational therapist working with adults and children with acquired and developmental disabilities for the last 20 some odd years. I took on an entirely new role about 7 years ago when one of my 4 children was identified with a disability. That opened my eyes entirely to a different perspective on the disability world. I initially joined Partners in Policymaking because I wanted to find my tribe and strengthen my voice. My advocacy passions lie in many places. I believe every child deserves a voice, and that children should not have to wait and see or prove their right to communicate. I believe assistive technology should be accessible, and that it should be discussed at every meeting for every child with an IEP, because, well, that's the law. I believe people should understand that sensory behavior is not actually negative behavior. Sensory integration is something we do all day long, every single one of us. I believe all children should be engaged in the curriculum and not simply exposed to it. Throughout my years as an occupational therapist, as I've sat on the parent side of the IEP table, and as I've read through the materials here at Partners, I continually ask myself the questions how and why. How do we make real and lasting change? And why is it so stinking difficult? As I hit barrier after barrier as a parent, I began to become frustrated and angry with the fight that had to happen all the time. After much soul searching and after going through the materials here at Partners, I was able to find a solution. I literally had to be the change that I wanted to see in the world. Change had to literally start with myself. It had to start with my own perspective on the disability world, my own perspective on the medical model, and my own thoughts on how people were broken and they needed to be fixed. But before we go in any further, I'd like to do a little check-in. I need you to be honest with yourself because there's no right or wrong answer. What I'm going to do is show you some images, some stories, some new faces, some familiar faces. I want you to write down your first thoughts when you see them. Again, there's no right or wrong answer. Are you ready? Let's go.
Shining. Her hair falls perfectly without her trying. She's so beautiful, and I tell her every day. Yeah, I know, when I compliment her, she won't believe me. It's so sad to think that she don't see what I see. But every time she asks me, do I look okay? I say, when I see your face, it's not a thing that I would change. 'Cause you're amazing, just the way you are.
So hopefully this got you thinking about not only what we say, but how we say it. Words matter. Which brings me back to my positive perspective project. It's so simple, it's stupid, and yet it's a Herculean task. Thinking about what we say and how we say it, thinking about our own thoughts in our own head, whether they're positive or negative about the children we have or the people we work with, thinking about how we represent people with disabilities on a daily basis. At its very core, it's a mindfulness project. On a grandest scale, it's actually a caregiver support project. On a more minute scale, it's actually an educational project. Perspective research has been conducted many times, with results not varying greatly. Typically, when expectations are lowered, underachievement is seen. When the disability aspect is introduced, often researchers look at things like pity, anger, and frustration. So what if we gave our perspective research an overhaul and talked instead about how working with people with disabilities and having children with disabilities provides us opportunities for personal growth, such as this course. How working with them and having them gives us pride and joy in life's little things. How we have a willingness to teach and educate others that we may have not have had before. How it helps us to embrace diversity beyond our family, beyond our norms, and beyond what society typically puts forth. For me, the next steps include continuing to plant the seeds of change, about how standing out from a crowd is a thing to embrace instead of a thing to worry about. As you can tell, I could go on and on and on about this subject. I already like to guest lecture, and I'm hoping to present this topic for discussion at some larger conferences, some smaller conferences, and continue to discuss these things with groups such as this and at our local district level. I truly value your input, and I really look forward to discussing this topic further with you, and I thank you very much for listening.